You've tried productivity hacks, apps, and tools, but you still procrastinate, get distracted, and struggle to stay consistent. And it's not because you're lazy and it's not disciplined. The truth is that most productivity hacks are just dopamine traps. They feel good, but they don't solve the root problem: your brain's resistance to discomfort. I've spent the last 5 years helping entrepreneurs rewire their brain, eliminate inconsistency, and maximize their productive output so they could scale their business faster without burning out. And in this video, I'm going to show you what actually works so you can execute effortlessly, maximize your productive output, and scale your business faster without burnout. Let's dive in. So here's the truth that no one tells you. Productivity hacks are designed to entertain you and spike your dopamine, not really make you more effective. They distract you from the real issue, which is that your brain is wired to avoid discomfort. And so when it's time to do the hard task, you stall, you scroll, you start organizing, fiddling with your tools, or just chasing easier tasks to feel productive when they don't even move the needle. And until you rewire this fundamental default in your brain, no Notion template, monk mode challenge, or Pomodoro timer will save you. Notion only encourages complexity. Monk mode only encourages a short spike of inspiration that quickly fades and leads to burnout, where you regress into your old patterns. And Pomodoro actually trains you to resist deep work. It's really easy to get addicted to the dopamine drip of trying a bunch of new tools, trying to find the solution to the problem instead of just sitting down and doing what matters. That's why you stay stuck. And look, that used to be me too, until I understood this one thing. Productivity is not about planning. Productivity is about moving from intention to action without resistance. It's about doing what you said you were going to do every single time, no matter how difficult the task is. And there's not a single tool, planner, app that will train this for you. And so after working with so many entrepreneurs and solving this for myself, the key here is that you actually don't need more productivity hacks. You just need to rewire your brain's default response to discomfort so that you actually execute and perform in the moment without delay. That's the real unlock to productivity. All you need to do is identify the work that matters, sit down, get it done. Business is really that simple. But here's the problem and what actually keeps entrepreneurs from executing that, right? It's your limbic system that causes you to avoid the work that matters. When you try to sit down to do the hard task, here's what happens. Your amygdala immediately fires because your amygdala is designed to detect threats in the environment. And the hard task is going to require a lot of energy and a lot of effort, and you might have some fears and limiting beliefs around it. And so your amygdala is going to detect that as a threat, which is going to activate the stress response in your brain, which releases cortisol, norepinephrine. And this is what starts to make you feel that internal resistance, that anxiety, that pressure. This actually shuts down the prefrontal cortex, and that's right behind the forehead, which is responsible for your executive function and decision making and your ability to actually focus and execute. That's why you procrastinate. That's why you get distracted, and it's why you keep intending to do stuff, right? You have these beautiful plans, but then you don't end up following through. It's because of this loop inside of your brain. And there's not a single productivity tool, app, or monk mode thing that's ever going to solve that. You have to rewire this. You have to train your nervous system to stay calm under pressure and execute anyways. And if you really look into it, this is what all elite entrepreneurs do, whether it's conscious or unconscious. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, even guys like Alex Hormozi, they all have this. They don't rely on perfect conditions and tools to sit down and get stuff done. They don't need dopamine hits from apps or templates. They've trained their minds to lean into the discomfort, to do the work that matters, whether they feel like it or not. And truly, when you do this, this is what makes execution as automatic as breathing air. And this is what separates high performers from everybody else. But the best part about this whole thing is that you can train this. But if you don't train this, then you just end up stuck in the same cycle, chasing all these hacks and tools and templates and thinking that you just are never going to be consistent. You just lack discipline fundamentally, and something's wrong with you. And it's just a bad place to be, man. And you're not going to be able to see the success you want in your business. And so to avoid that, I'm going to give you 5 steps here in order for you to solve this problem at the root and to rewire your brain to actually lean in and automatically execute. so that you can actually become productive and effective in your business and get more done in less time and actually make more money in less time. The very first step here is you want to optimize your awareness. This is the first thing I do with all of my clients, because without awareness on the patterns that are sabotaging your output, then you're just going to keep repeating them. And so the easiest way to implement this is to reflect on your execution patterns. You want to look at, where do you typically fall off? Where are the usual moments where you'll get stuck in overthinking, getting distracted, or procrastinating? You want to identify those moments, because humans are creatures of habit. And so chances are that if you're falling off or you're getting derailed in a certain way, that's basically how it happens every single time. And so one pattern is going to be reflected in many other ways. And that's why they say how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so once you spot one pattern, you'll start to spot them everywhere. You want to look for times of day, right? Maybe it's during the same time of day where you find yourself falling off track in your productivity, or maybe it's during the same type of task, right? You just keep procrastinating on certain tasks, or you're always getting distracted with a certain type of task. It could also be after a certain event happens in your business. Like I had a client one time that he would be like on point, dialed in, but as soon as a client would want a chargeback, or as soon as a client maybe wasn't getting results in a certain time frame, this would trigger self-doubt, and it would actually trigger distraction and procrastination patterns for him. And so once we identified that, we were able to build a system around handling that situation, and that was a recurring pattern for him. And then once we got rid of that, well, he was able to stay consistent with the things he needed to do. I also had another client who would repeatedly get distracted during important work, and it was typically sales calls for him. And what we ended up doing was actually creating a ritual before his sales calls so that he was able to prime his mind, calm his nervous system, and be focused on the task at hand and paying attention to the process of running the sales call instead of getting distracted or maybe getting stressed out during the process. And so those are just two really simple examples, but you really want to analyze your patterns. Where do you fall off? What are the typical patterns? Is it during the time of day, type of task, or after a certain event? And then what you want to do is, once you've identified your biggest patterns, develop specific systems to solve them at the root. And this is how you start engineering true consistency around high performance in your business. So let's get into the second step here. Focus on what matters. And so a lot of founders feel overwhelmed with their task list, right? There's just so much to do. I get it. But here's the real problem. They don't have a lot to do. They just lack clarity on what actually matters. Because yes, there's an infinite amount of things that you can do every single day. However, there's only a few things, genuinely 1 to 3 big things every single day, that are going to solve the number one problem in your business right now. And so what you want to do is you want to identify those things, because all you need to do is identify that, sit down, get it done. And it's not do them all at the same time. It's identify the biggest constraint, the tasks that solve that, and then you do it one at a time, right? You do one task at a time, one project at a time, not everything all at once. And so that's super important to understand. And so once you start focusing on what matters, you'll see your task list shrinks, but your results start to skyrocket because you're focused on the things that are releasing your number one constraint in the business. Third step here is you want to prime your identity, not just your to-do list or your calendar. Most entrepreneurs wake up reacting. They're putting out fires. They're just doing all the little things that seem urgent, but they don't really change anything. But high performers, they operate differently. When they wake up in the morning, they're not reacting. They're deciding who they're going to be that day. So before you start your work, you want to remind yourself of who you want to become. How does that version of you operate today? What do they say no to? What do they focus on? How do they move throughout the day? Identity is what drives your behavior. And once you shift how you see yourself, following through becomes automatic. So the fourth key here is to track your execution, not just your hours. You want to forget about how long you're sitting at your desk. Most entrepreneurs get an ego trip because they were in front of their desk, in front of their computer for 12, 14, 16 hours. But when you look at what they actually finished, it's next to nothing. And so it's really not about the hours, because that's not what determines progress. It's about how much of what matters you're actually finishing every single day. And so what you want to track is, did you finish the task that actually mattered? Like, that's what you really want to be looking at and asking yourself at the end of every day. Did you finish what matters? And did you do what you said you were going to do? When you start tracking these two key metrics, you're going to build more awareness, because if you didn't, now you can look at your execution pattern and see, well, why not? Where did things break down? And what system do I need to create in order to solve that problem from occurring again? It's also going to start to build self-trust, because as you are able to answer yes to both of those questions, that's what's really going to build self-trust and your ability to follow through and get the job done. And this rewires your brain to value completion over just effort and hours spent. Step number 5 here is to calm your nervous system before execution. And so before you start deep work, all you need to do is take 60 seconds to calm your nervous system. You can do box breathing, that's great here, where you inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, and then you just repeat that. And what this is going to do is this is going to lower any tension and resistance. It's going to quiet the stress response in your brain if that's activated, silencing the amygdala and allowing you to activate and stay centered in the prefrontal cortex, which is going to keep you in the part of the brain that's responsible for, again, making clear decisions and being able to focus. The more that you train this, the more in control that you'll be and the smoother that your execution will become. And now number 6 is just to keep it simple. You don't need a bunch of apps and Notion templates with 10 tabs and all this crazy complexity and a life operating system and a second brain and all this sort of stuff. All you need is a list of what matters, a 90-minute time block to get it done, and a brain that's wired to execute automatically. My current productivity system is stupidly simple. I just use Apple Notes to capture tasks and organize my projects, because again, you don't need 10 different projects. Google Calendar to just map out my time blocks and what I need to get done and manage calls and all that sort of stuff. And then I have a performance dashboard for my business as well as my personal performance to track my progress. And that's literally it. And my clients learn to operate in a very similar way, keeping things extremely simple. And this is what allows you to stay clear on the things that matter and move very, very fast. Now imagine this. You wake up and instead of scrolling or stalling, you dive straight into your most important task. No hesitation, no mental drama, just clean, focused execution. You knock out 3 to 5 hours of high leverage work before most entrepreneurs are even getting started. Your pipeline's full, your revenue's climbing, and you're not burning out because you're not fighting against yourself anymore. You're just calm, clear, and in control. And truly, this is what happens when you stop relying on hacks and you actually just rewire your brain to execute automatically. And this is what I help my clients with. On average, they triple their productive output, they delete stress, and they start scaling their business faster because the operator is finally scaling themselves. And so if you're done wasting time with surface level hacks and you're ready to solve the root problem behind your inconsistency, distraction, and procrastination, so you can finally become consistent, triple your daily output, and scale your business faster without any burnout, book a call with me. We'll have a quick chat. We'll take a look at where you're stuck, what's holding you back, and what needs to change. And if it's a fit, well, I'll show you how we can fix that together inside of my Elite Operator program. And I'll leave you with this, man. It's not about forcing productivity or stacking more self-help hacks. It's about rewiring how your brain approaches work. Because once you flip that switch, you move fast, you execute with ease, and you get more done than you ever have before. And when you're ready, I'll see you on the call.